This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
Okay, so I think the debate is very simple. We debate on the process, not the outcome. Understand one thing. What they debate to them is accountability. What we debate is the high taxes. Even if you may argue that actually there is no accountability, understand the fact that people cannot live up to the high taxes that you have already put in place already gives them a justification to invade them in itself. I think the process to get to accountability in itself already alienates them. A lot of the businesses, as Ray explains to you and Arnold, is that they want to survive in the economy. They want to actually make businesses that are long lasting. If at all their process to actually get to the accountability in itself are already alienating them, they're going to tax in vain. Pano, I think the comparative on where you're best vying into is going to be very simple. The metric is going to be, even if we achieve accountability in itself and we still have high taxes, are people really willing to evade? Understand, if we solve their problem at the end of the day of accountability, but still people are not able to live up to the standards of these high taxes, they are still going to evade to survive, to be able to make it in life, or to be able to position their businesses somewhere. That in itself already shows you that we have an exclusive benefit that you cannot get from their side, even with solvency. Secondly, on context and premises, I think Red does a good job at showing you that a lot of these businesses are struggling to make sure that they actually establish themselves. Something that is not rebutted till my third speech. That in itself gives us a context or gives us a justification when we tell you that a lot of these businesses struggling to make profit are more so going to put in measures, and more so measures like trying to run around taxes so that they can be able to establish themselves in status quo. If negative does not rebut that, it means that still third speech, we can still be able to prove to you that a lot of these businesses in instance will actually still evade even with the accountability that is there, and we think we cannot buy into that. But on best cases, we tell you that even when you may argue that accountability is the issue, even when it's achieved but high taxes are still an issue, people are more likely to evade because they want their businesses to survive, because they want to actually make it, they want to take their children to school and stuff like that. And the fact that these businesses can get a measure in which they can
Your eye speaker.
the status quo, we think they cannot be able to make it. Taken.
Don't you think that if government provided good roads and a good environment, we would maximize profit and ensure good economic stability?
Well, understand one thing. Even though you may say that accountability looks like roads and stuff like that, understand if the high taxes and the economy is not able to match up to that standard, people are still not going to be able to actually buy into that, and they are still more likely to evade. The thing is, what pushes them? I think the debate more lies on what pushes people to evade taxes. Is it what they think their government is? Because that comes afterwards. They already are dissatisfied with the high taxes. See, the thing is, in Uganda, they come up and they say that salt apparently is now 1,000 Ugandan shilling. Now, the problem is people are already having a problem with salt being at 1,000 even before they have a problem with the accountability that will come with that salt being at 1,000. That basically means that even if you may argue that they are not seeing where their money is going, they cannot afford rest. They still cannot afford to match up to the standard of the taxes you have already put up. That in itself means that they are not going to be able to make, they are not going to be able to meet the standard whether they mean it. But secondly, when you actually put up numerous taxes that are made to cage them, you're already limiting their growth. But more so, they want to survive and they want to actually export their whatevers so that they can be able to beat their competition, which as government is already bringing in stuff like that. It already shows you in itself, for them to be able to retaliate is to find measures or loopholes that already exist so that they can be able to tax evade to survive in itself. If negative cannot be able to show us how the process to accountability in itself is solved by the fact that you're achieving accountability at the end zone, they cannot be able to win. But secondly, if the debate is to be based on what then makes people most, I think the comparative weighs more on the high taxes, because in itself people are struggling to make it to the standard that you're meaning. But thirdly, even if we achieve both sides, a comparative is simple. If we achieved taxes and they were low and apparently the accountability was there, and itself people would actually still buy into low taxes. Why? Because they feel like their businesses can achieve more, and they will still have no problem with maybe surviving or maybe paying their taxes, because it is something that they would work in. But certainly, if at all you achieve accountability in itself, but still you do not have the taxes lowered, people will still tax evade. Thank you.
Chair, this was a very good debate, but only to be disturbed by contradiction and lack of connectivity in team government's case. Chair, let's first analyze their case. What do you get from their first speech? From their first speech, he thinks that lack of accountability is generally causing people to not pay taxes. People who feel like the government has betrayed us through the contract theory. The government was supposed to maybe to provide good roads for our children, good roads for our business, so that we can transport our goods and raw materials. It has failed us. The government that was supposed to build the schools for our children to go to school has failed us. The government that was supposed to build hospitals for our pregnant mothers to give birth, has failed us. So what are we supposed to do as the other party? So the other party, when they say think that you are supposed to do taxes, that's basically what we get from their first speech. Then what we get from their second speech? The second speech basically thinks that because tax evasion is sort of like business manipulation, all like business profits, right? He thinks that people are basically dodging taxes because they want to make more profits, right? That's what you get from their second speech. Then how we get from their third speech? The third speech generally thinks that the lack of accountability is like sort of like not useful and basically it's profits. Then what we get from our side? Panel, notice from our first speech, we can show you that look, lack of accountability, when people feel like they are being betrayed, then they will feel like they're going to dodge taxes and sort of like gain their own word. Panel, let's first engage them on their best argument. Look, their best argument is sort of like business profits. Panel, let's dive into their word. A word where there are low taxes, but then people like are mining on business profits. Look, a word where the government lowers taxes, but then the government is not providing good roads from transform for the good roads, transfer products. The government is not providing good security for this, good security for this business to survive. Look, this is a word where we are going to see high cases of robbery. At the end of that day, the profits they are running about, they are going to be because these businesses are facing robbery, they are facing lack of delivery for their products, they are facing challenges like lack of raw materials in their product. At the end of the day, this business will not even survive at the end of the day. That's the word they paint us. Look, a word where we paint to you. A problem at hand, we show you. The problem at hand is lack of accountability, where we have officials in government who feel like they are big and untouchable. For example, in Uganda, they are not supposed to pay any tax. Nobody's going to hold them accountable. Then what that means, these people are going now to raise taxes, right? That's the implementation they are trying to show us, right? Then these people, when these people raise taxes, then they think that they are going to like make the people dodge them. But then we show you, if there was accountability and there were good roads, there were good hospitals, a businessman sees that a businessman sees that I'm paying these particular taxes, so that I have a good road which will help me transform my goods, transform my products, and whatever case, and enable my customers to get. Then he's getting profit at the end of the day. At the end of the on the other side, he's trying to pay taxes and full obligation. Panel, what do you think? They think that there are some certain group of people who cannot live to the standards of these high taxes. Panel, from our second speech, we show you that before a tax is passed in any other country, we pass through a parliament, and this parliament, these laws are suggested by the people who represent the people in the parliament. Well, then that means that these ideas have been suggested by the people they are presenting. So every tax we put on, we first consider people who are living in those standards. Therefore, when the tax is passed, it then means that it has been considered that people can manage it or not. Then the argument of people cannot live under that, they are not exist. Panel, let's also look at their burden. Let's also look at the contract theory. We ran through the whole debate as our best case scenario. Look, we show you, had the government provided enough of services, there was good service delivery, then people would feel okay with taxes. Because when I'm able to pay a high tax as they claim in their word, but then I'm getting good roads, then my children are going to school, the pregnant mother are going to hospital, then I'm okay with that because what I give in is what I get in. But look in the word, what they are giving, the people are giving in is not what they are getting in. Even if the taxes are low, but then the service there is continuous embezzlement, lack of accountability. Even the little money we are collecting as government is going to be embezzled, right? Well, then that means the services were bad, they are going to become worse to the point that they are going to even become worse, right? Then look at a point where services are worse, right?
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute.